Good dag pedag, mein friends. Today on Mad Musing, we are headed to glorious Spain during the time of the Reconquista and deal with the forces of heaven and hell at the same time with Aquelarre, the first RPG written and produced entirely in Spanish, appearing for the first time in an English translation thanks to Kickstarter, which is a good thing because until then I've been watching Spanish language YouTube channels just to figure out how to pronounce Aquelarre. And I'm not going to lie, my Spanish is pretty much restricted to no estoy diciendo un palabra hasta que consigna a mi maldito abogado. So get ready to embrace an RPG that is everything the people that brought us the Satanic Panic warned us about. I'm Mr. Welch, and today we are looking at Aquelarre. The game is world famous in Spain, but it doesn't have a large following in the United States. It was written in 1990 by Richard Ibanez, but only recently translated in English through a Kickstarter. It is one of the most successful RPGs in Spain as it dives deep into Spanish history during the late 1400s as the Moors are being pushed out and the Inquisition is just getting started. This is not a game for the faint-hearted. If you get easily offended because of controversial materials, do not pick this one up. And I am not kidding about this book offending people that like to be offended. Aquelarre pulls no punches and does not add an ounce of sugarcoating. The book uses real-world religions and plays up the religious conflict of the period. It has Catholics, Muslims, Jews, and Satanists in a Spain that was not known for its welcoming attitudes. There's no Protestants, the Reformation is still decades away, and the Orthodox religions are thousands of miles to the east. Depending on what part of Spain or Portugal you're in, prepare to face discrimination because of your religion. You don't want to be a Christian in Moorish Spain or vice versa, and everybody doesn't like the Jews. The Satanists tend to be the bad guys, but that's not stopping you from learning some demon summoning spells. Mechanically, the book is percentile based. It's very similar in style to RuneQuest. Characters can roll their starting social class, but a lot of social classes are restricted based on sex and religion. Don't expect Jews to have a lot of options on the social chart in 15th century Spain. Then you pick your actual profession. These again are restricted by social class, religion, sex, and of course ability. Several professions are quite specific to the era that the game is set in and don't translate well to modern society. Many of the professions have Spanish titles like the Goliardo, a wandering roguish monk, and the Mujadim, which is a cross between a Jewish elder and a cop. While the game is largely in English, a basic understanding of Spanish will help a lot with the pronunciation. Character creation is a multi-step process. Most of it's determined by your social class and profession. There's 7 basic stats, similar to the normal 6 abilities from D&D, with a few name changes, and wisdom is gone, perception is added, dexterity is split between agility and, dexterity. You divide up 100 points between these 7 stats with a range of 50 to 20 points each, and no fewer than 10 points in vitality. There are some derived stats like luck, temperance, which is your mental hit points, life points, which is just equal to your vitality, your appearance, and, most intriguing, rationality and irrationality. These represent your abilities with science and Catholic faith on the rational spectrum compared to demonology and sorcery on the irrational scale. They're diametrically opposed, so raising one takes away from the other. Skills are assigned by a 2-step process. First, you've got skills that you learn naturally, and then you get a smaller amount that you learn from your parents. Those are restricted to a small skill list that your parents taught you. If your father was a farmer, you're going to know how to farm. Buying skills is a simple matter. Skills related to your profession are on a 1-to-1 scale. Buying skills not related to your profession costs you 2 for 1. You can't learn spells unless you've taken a profession that allows it. The game is based on percentiles, so add your skill to your ability to give you your basic percentage chance. It's a fairly simple system. There's also advantages and disadvantages. Those are typical of a lot of games. You have to buy an equal number of Banes for every point of boon you purchase. There's several types of supernatural abilities. You've got miracles, white magic, black magic, alchemy, and then you have the goetic spells, which are super powerful and are not taught to you even by demons. You have to find them in play. Alchemy is a skill base. It doesn't have any effect on your soul one way or the other, but you have to be good enough to brew the potions. White and black magic go off of a mana pool. White magic is less powerful, but it doesn't burn any parts of your soul away. Black magic is much more powerful, but it counts as sinning and damns you. Goetic magic is the stuff that legends are made of. We're talking Faustian deals here. Faith-based abilities are on a somewhat pool system, but you don't actually spend the points. You actually gain or lose points by living a virtuous life or living a sinful life. For the most part, this is based on Catholic sin from the Middle Ages, so things like missing church, not going to Mass, not going to confession, or not tithing enough. It counts as a sin, which docks your faith points, and to cast the really high-level faith abilities, you practically have to be a saint. First thing you will notice when thumbing through Aquelarre is that it does not shy away at all from the historical realities of the time, aside from the magic and demon summoning. It's not a nice time for a lot of people. Women are second-class citizens. Gays are burned at the stake or castrated. Dying from disease is a constant threat. Slavery is very common. And religious strife is a driving force behind the game. It's not for the easily offended. There's more than a few people that will think less of you for just playing it. Remember, this game is a product of its time, and that time was 5 centuries ago. It doesn't try to shoehorn in token appearances from various nationalities just for the sake of diversity. You're not going to find Asians or Native Americans walking the streets of Aragon. You're going to have a hard time finding a Swede or a German in this game. If you're the type who demands historical accuracy be sacrificed because you want a culturally diverse game, you're not going to like Aquelarre. The author has done a ton of research in this setting, and he explains in great detail that it's uncommon for people to travel from one province to the next, let alone finding large number of foreigners. You might find some Brits at a port, but you're not going to find anyone inland who's not Spanish, Moorish, or Jewish. The game is regarded well for its massive selection on angels and demons, with miracles and black magics playing a major part of the game as well. The list of demons and angels is pretty impressive. It's all based on Catholic lore, with over 50 pages devoted to all sorts of creatures divine and demonic. In addition, there's a ton of cursed individuals you can interact with, like a monk who can't die unless he asks the devil for permission, and then he can't remember more than 24 hours at a time. The Wandering Jew makes an appearance, as do dozens of other cursed individuals and ghosts of sinners and worse. The bestiary is quite impressive. It takes up over 100 pages, from giants and fairies to wolves and bears. A large chunk of the book is devoted to the history of Reconquista Spain. Remember, this is set in the middle of the Reconquista. It's odd that despite the book having a very heavy focus on the supernatural, this part reads like a history book, not touching on any supernatural aspects, but instead on real-world history. It's written informally, and it's more than a bit biased in favor of the Spanish territories, especially fawning over Ferdinand and Isabella. The book does paint a thorough picture of life in Spain in the late 1400s. Might not be a pretty picture, but it is an impressive one. And speaking of pictures, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the art. The book is deliberately thematic. It looks like wood carvings from that time period. The art itself is like the rest of the book. It's not watered down for today's sensibilities. We're talking Hieronymus Bosch kind of art. Things like a guy being tortured by being suspended by his naughty bits with a rope, a demon with 3 mouths devouring naked sinners alive. It's not sexy art. It looks old by design. It's a bold step that would automatically be rejected by a lot of American game companies without a second glance. Aquelarre is a game from another culture. Remember that. What offends Americans doesn't bother Spaniards. This game has been called the best RPG never printed in the United States. The main book is well done. It's a little bit narrow in scope for my taste, but that can change with the translation of numerous supplements in the line. I only reviewed what I could read, and despite being a Texan, my Spanish is atrocious. If you love historical-based RPGs, this one gives you everything you want and more. Just be warned, medieval Spain is not a nice place to live. That's it for this Mad Musings. Next time around, I'm going to look at New Gods of Mankind, the Populous role-playing game, though not technically the Populous role-playing game. It just reminds me of Populous. This is where you start off as gods and try to go up from there. It's an interesting premise, but has mixed results. So remember, until then, Dui ddim yn siarad Spaniag o gwbl.